Hello, my name is Nick Henderson, and I am so glad to have this chance. Today, Kritvi and I are going to be presenting on a very interesting topic, which is probably relevant for you. Mastering postgrad applications, because mastering is the key word because you're going to be applying for your master's, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through the thought process and we're going to walk you through the exact steps and then we're going to tell you how we can help you. And so the goal today is to give you tools that you can use to better understand this process yourselves, okay? And if you want our help, you contact us. Okay, so this is our company. We are Essai, and we specialize in end-to-end profile building and college application support for the best unis and colleges in the US and the UK. And so this comes in two basic levels. Number one is profile building, and that's basically coming up with plans for kids, helping them every step of the way. This is largely focused on the undergraduate applications, and we've made this into a bit of a science. Now, the next one is the application support, okay? And so this is about filling the forms and stuff, okay? Writing the essays, making the college list, filling the forms. Now, this is a very intensive process, and this is all about focusing on the actual paperwork. So we can help you in this way, mostly for the postgrad. That's the application support piece. Now, I am Nick. That is me in the corner. I am the director of this company. I am um, I am from Harvard and I graduated a long time ago, and I've been doing this for a long time at Essai. Okay. Well, I was a teacher first, and then I wrote a textbook, and I started my company in about 10 years ago. And I've been doing this for a long time, and we've done about 1,000 students in that time. It's amazing. Now, and then Kritvi, I'm going to let them take over because they know the postgrad process much better than I do.
Thanks, Nick. Hello all. Thank you for joining firstly. I'm Kritvi. I'm head of success here at SI. And I'm also working with SI's daughter company, PIPMS, where I'm head of programs and partnerships. I've been here at SI for close to 4 years now. Feels like a lifetime, but a great one at that. I graduated from the University of Amsterdam with a master's in film studies, and essentially here I've helped set up the research and analytics team. I also co-head the postgrad team here with at SI with Nick. These are some of our master's results in the US that we've had over the last few years. We've worked with some impeccable students who have done a great job. And there are some of our master's acceptances in the non-US space. Primarily, we work with students in the US. That's something that we do know the ins and outs of. But yes, sometimes we do also help with the UK and Canada. So, committing to a postgrad program is essentially like buying a house, and that may seem like a strange analogy, but it's also very relevant to the times that we are living in. If you'd know that there's a lot of financial pressure when it comes to, and societal pressure when it comes to perhaps pursuing your master's and also buying a house. So it equates very well. And of course, it does cost the same. It's a huge investment of your time and your finances, and it's important to understand your goals and motivations as to why you want to do a PG degree. And of course, we'll jump more into this soon. Um, so when you talk about for how long, you essentially just we want to try and understand how long will the building of this house serve your long-term goals. Do you just want exposure to the international education landscape? Do you intend to work in the country you wish to study in? Or do you just want to go out and party? That's absolutely fine. All of the above are very, very valid concerns. But whatever you eventually choose should be worth your financial as well as time-wise investment. So there are tens and thousands of degrees and universities, and after COVID, people are coming up with online degrees, etc., etc. So essentially, what MA is right for you? How do you decide this? What do you kind of go in with? And essentially, this starts with the 5 Ws. So now that I've said that your reasons for building this house might be different and all of them are very valid concerns, it's also important to kind of decide which choice should you chase after. And that's where the 5 Ws come in. So firstly, when do you want to begin your master's? Where in the world do you want to study? Which universities fit your profile? Which program is the right fit? And lastly, and the most important to me, is why are you doing this at all? Because definitely it's an expensive investment, and because of societal pressure, you don't want to jump into something that is such a huge part of your life and such a huge investment. So when do you want to begin? This is an interesting question because, like the undergrad process or the high school process, there's no correct time to doing a postgrad, right? I've also studied abroad, and in my classes, we've had faculty members who are very, very young. We've had students who are very, very old. So outside of India, there's no really kind of this barricade of when you should do your PG. But this is interesting because you need to know what you're essentially applying for. So some postgrad programs will require work experience. Some will outrightly reject you if you have too much work experience. Yes, that happens. And some require to have work experience in a specific domain. And some are just way too expensive to invest in right now. I think the MBA at Oxford is about 90,000 GBP, which converts to more than 90 lakh rupees for the 2 year program. So definitely this is it's an expensive investment. And for example, if you are wanting to do your MBA from a tier 1 institution in the US or the UK, you definitely do need to save up resources for that. Consider the above while making a decision about if you want to apply, and if yes, when do you want to apply? The next point, where in the world? So this of course can be very tricky because I mean, going abroad is definitely very daunting. And with all the political scenarios about the visas and stuff, it can get a little bit tricky. But I'd actually advise you to first set your mind on what you want to achieve through your studies and then take that decision about where you want to go. So, do you wish to immerse yourself in a cultural experience while you're studying? Then Europe or Southeast Asia might be a good fit. Are you uncomfortable in a non-English speaking country? Then the US, UK, and Canada should tick your boxes. And do you wish to live close to home? If that's the case, that's absolutely fine. India or Singapore would be the way to go. So remember that studying somewhere is only half part of the deal. Living there is a full-time job. And whenever you essentially commit to this degree, you need to understand that you will be living there and you might be living there even after your postgrad degree. Um, so definitely when you're making that decision, you need to be cognizant of these facts. Now, which unis? As a general thumb of rule for US and UK rankings, we'd recommend looking at the US News and World Report. Half of these articles that do come out with rankings are nowadays sponsored. Of course, news articles do write it that, this is sponsored by this person, this is sponsored by this person. But at the end of the day, we found US News and World Report to be highly reliable. I won't take unis names, but when a very prestigious Ivy League university was involved in some sort of scam, the US News and World Report took matters into their own hands and shifted it down below as well. So they are extremely trustworthy in that situation. So for Canada, there are only a couple of good unis. You can note these down if you'd like. It's McMaster, University of British Columbia, University of Toronto, Western University, and McGill. And of course, if you would like a consultation after this, we can of course advise more on this. But for Canada, these are the primary ones. And in case if there's anyone here who wants to study business, we definitely recommend looking at the Financial Times rankings. They're not location specific, so they give a very holistic overview of which business schools are good all across the globe. And if you're not hung up on the US and the UK and Canada. So what program? This can look like the hard part, but if you have a very specific goal in mind, you've nailed this. You're already done with this. So if you want to work as a consultant at the big three, you do know that you need an MBA from a tier one institution. Um, there's no other way about it. But if you're a student whose interests lie in environment politics, you may be interested in pursuing a master's in politics or a master's in urban development, or better yet, a master in governance. There's just a lot that goes into these programs, and there's a lot of variety. So it's really imperative that you read the curricula of each program that you're essentially applying to and take an informed decision about your program choices. Now, to my favorite part, which is why. Um, like I said, not everyone applies for a postgrad degree to land a high-paying job. You might be getting this after Plaksha itself. Plaksha is great with that. Um, but what what you might be chasing after might be an international education experience, a cultural experience, just to get away from home for a year, and that's absolutely, absolutely fine. But some of you may be also succumbing to the social pressure of pursuing a postgrad degree. So definitely, when you are zeroing on in this goal, you need to put yourself at the focus of these questions. Once you answer these 5 Ws, you're essentially ready to apply. Now that you have your 5 Ws kind of ready, you delve into the process. And the process is essentially, it can be a bit complex, but has some very specific steps, which we're going to come to now. I myself have done this process for about 50 plus students, and I can assure you that this process can be very straightforward if done correctly. Make a long list. Okay, this is easy. Now I'm going to make this into an exercise for all of you. You don't have to do it right now, but definitely take a note of it. What you're going to do is, once you're ready that you want to apply, you're going to take about 2 to 3 hours, sit down with your laptop and without it also, if you're fine with that, and note down each and every program that you're interested in. It doesn't matter if you think you can't get in. It doesn't matter if you think that it might not be a good school, but you're really interested in the program. Just note down everything, everything, everything. Make three, and actually do this on a Google spreadsheet. Make 3 specific columns, write a university name, write location, and write program, and start filling that up. Do this for about 2 hours and not more than 3 hours. I won't recommend that. And at the end of this process, you'll have a list of about 30 to 50 programs. Try to limit yourself to this range, and you might find this to be very, very long right now. And don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to apply to 50 programs. This is just the initial study. Once you're done with this, you're going to come up with a list that you're actually just fully happy with. You're going to be thinking that there is nothing left in this world that I would like to apply for. It is here on this sheet of paper. Then what you're going to do is you're going to compile its application requirements to make sure that you actually meet the requirements of the program that you're applying to. Now, the same spreadsheet, this is going to take you about, again, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. But basically, you're going to add 5 more columns to this. One would be the number and type of LORs. Second would be whether the GRE or GMAT is required. Third would be undergrad coursework requirements. Fourth, work experience requirements. And last, application deadlines. So now, for example, when we're talking about the number of type in LORs, if a program requires one work experience LOR and you don't have any work experience, you will be rejected right away. That will eliminate stuff from your list. That will start happening. Now, the GRE GMAT requirement, if this is required, are you sure you can ace it? If you're not sure and you kind of have made up your mind that you won't take either of these tests, save yourself some time and effort and don't apply to this program. It's as simple as that. Next, undergrad coursework requirements. if you're applying for an MBA, and they specifically require calculus at an undergrad level, and you haven't studied mathematics since high school, you are not going to have a good chance of being admitted. Remove it from your list. Work experience again. So, an example of this is if you wish to apply for a master's in public policy, they usually require students to have relevant work experience in that domain. You can't come in from finance, you can't come in from engineering, you can't come in from these other disciplines. Do you think they'll consider you? No, you'll have a poor chance. And lastly, application deadlines, just to make sure that you're right on track in terms of timelines. So once you have this ready, you can start eliminating programs. That list of 50 will start going down. Admissibility assessment. So this is essentially an extension of the earlier step where we'll understand where your profile stands essentially. So this will tell us for each program, what is the average GPA that has been admitted? What is the average age that has been admitted? What is the average undergrad degree that has been admitted? And if you are applying with GMAT or GRE scores, then what is the average test score that has been admitted? You will essentially, and again, this will be 5 more columns onto your spreadsheet. This is an ongoing research task, if you may. But this will essentially tell you where you essentially stand and what your chances are of being admitted to a university. So ideally, your college list, whatever its length may be, 33.3% of those universities should be dream universities. Universities that you can only dream of, your profile might or might not match with it. You have a very difficult chance of getting in. The next 33.3% of your college list should be target unis. Unis that are realistic, you may or may not get in. You might have a 60 to 70% chance and you're feeling a little bit optimistic about it. And the last 33.3% should be the safety unis. I don't recommend everyone here to have safety unis. Because some people might have very specific goals in mind. Like I said, if someone wants to work at the big three after this, you won't go to a safety uni. So there's no point of you having a safety uni. But in case you're just looking for international education exposure, definitely have that 33.3% saved for the safeties because you're not only going for the program, you're going for a holistic experience. So wherever you might be, you will get that experience. So definitely have that as well. Now to search this information, it's very simple. You go on Google, you type your university name, you type the program name, and then you add the words class profile against that. Now, mostly US universities have this information. Europeans and UK do not. Um, but again, if you don't find this info, just email them. They're going to be more than happy that you're showing a very detailed interest in the program that you're applying to. So this is Harvard Business School's class profile. As you'd see, there's a 3.69 GPA average. So if you're hovering around a 2, might not be a good idea. 11% were first generation. That means they have less bias against people who are coming from less privileged backgrounds, and that's absolutely great. You can also see the average GMAT, GRE, what were the pre-MBA industries they're coming from, and what kind of undergraduate educations they have. So if you see closely, business and commerce is about 24%, social science is about 10%, and arts and humanities is 5%. So if you have a degree in the arts and humanities, Harvard Business School might not be a great option, but look at Stanford's class profile, that might help. So there are a lot of different ways to go about this, and a a lot of unis definitely stand out in their own regard. It also matters what role they play in your life in the bigger picture. Quality assessment. Now, in the last 2 stages, we determined whether a university is willing to accept you. But here we're gonna round the tables. We're gonna ask, are you worth my energy to the university? Are you worth my investment? And this is interesting because I don't know if you guys have read Harvard's latest report, but the last MBA class, a lot of them were without jobs. And it's sad, but it's the truth. And big universities might not, I mean, big universities always release this. Smaller universities might not do it very often. But again, now you go back to your spreadsheet and you add four more columns. One is job placements, job functions, the salary, and most importantly, if you want to work abroad, this would be the most important for you, the percentage of international students getting in-country jobs. Now, like the class profile, this is listed under something called the employment report. And if you see, we have checked Carnegie Mellon's Masters of Science in Computational Finances employment report, and we see that 80% of students secured full-time employment in the US, which I feel is a great score. And if you're looking at CMU, it's definitely one of the best. If this information is not available, go back to the university, email them, ask them. If someone wants to take a picture of this, or right now, it would be a good time. This is essentially what we write to universities about when they don't have an employment report available. So definitely take a, I mean, we'd be happy to share the presentation as well, but if someone wants to take a picture of this is definitely very, very relevant for students who want to work abroad after studying. Again, might not be everyone's goal, but for whoever it is, this is interesting. So after this entire process, what you're going to come to is the program shortlist, and you'll essentially have 8 to 10 programs that are um, worth your time and effort, worth your financial investment, and essentially they will place you somewhere good at the end of it. So with the spreadsheet that we made earlier, just start eliminating things that do not make that do not tick your boxes. And what you should be looking out for is, you should tick something out if it is not suitable for your academic profile, which is, problems with eligibility. And the second would be not suitable for your academic and professional goals. So in the case that we discussed, it was less employment. That's the goal that might be missing. So before you go in and make these huge investments, just looking at the name of a university, you need to understand that there are a lot of different specifics that help in making a postgrad program, and it should be worth your time and investment. So once you're done with this, once you're done with your 8 to 10 programs, you start applying. Now, this is just very simple stuff. This is not my favorite part of the process because it becomes less of thinking and more of doing. But this is the primary part of it, so you got to do it. So for the postgrad application material, what is usually needed is LORs, writing samples. Some of the humanities, social sciences, and engineering programs might ask for writing samples. Business, not so much, but the technical and the more theoretical side of things will ask for writing samples. So in case you have any good papers that you've written at uni, any great project that you've worked on, a physical project, um, keep working on those. Keep making additions as and when you grow as a person. I believe also as someone who writes, um these things get better with age and time. It's like wine, so keep working on it. And last would be the essays, and that's one of the most important part of the application process. So for the LOR, reach out to your recommender definitely with enough time to spare. We recommend about 2 months, but if that's not possible, at least a month. Inform them about your total program list and send them your CV or SOP so that they know about your profile comprehensively. So if you go to a work-related recommender and they don't know what's happening in your academic life, they won't be able to comment about it. Same, if you go to a professor and you want them to comment about your professional experiences, they won't be able to do that. So the reason why we say 1 to 2 months is because we want them to write you a glowing letter of recommendation that is um definitely more holistic more than anything. So once they know all aspects of your academic and professional career, they'll be able to write a more holistic kind of recommendation. And one thing that I'd like to see here is that, people think that getting a recommendation from someone who is at a higher position will reap better benefits in comparison to someone with a lower position. But that has nothing to do with the recommendation. And I promise you that that will not make a decision, that will not make a difference in your admissions decision. What matters is that it comes from someone who knows you at different levels. And even if the university reaches out to them at a later stage, they'll be able to vouch for you. So make sure that whoever you're asking, you trust them and they know you in different capacities. There's no point going to a big film director if you want to apply for a film program. If they don't know you, they won't be able to comment upon your expertise. That's just something to keep in mind. So this is the part where you kind of just copy a bunch of information portals. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware of the undergraduate admissions process, but for the undergrad, it's super easy. You just log into Common App, you add all your universities, and you just apply at one go. But for postgrad, it becomes a bit difficult because there's no consolidated application platform. So what you essentially have to do is you go to the program link, you see an apply now, you click on apply now, you make your account, and then you start filling the portal. Now the portal has some basic information that is common throughout all portals. So once you start filling in Stanford, you might have to fill the same for an Imperial or a Harvard, etc., etc. But essentially, it'll take about 3 hours per portal. You will need to fill in your biodata, your work/academic history, your education, and if the program requires testing, then testing. Now, and also you can, while doing this, you can also make note of any additional data you may need to submit. Now, just a little tip for this. This is super easy information. We know it by heart. But what happens is that when we're doing this again and again, we tend to make mistakes. So what I'd suggest is that you sit for 2 hours, work on a portal, take an hour-long break, take a 2-hour-long break, and then come back to review the information that you've already filled. What happens is that if you're admitted, and if there's some wrong information, for example, there's a spelling mistake in your name, or there's a slight error in your passport number, that can lead to a lot of problems later on because they'll start asking for a lot of documents, etc., etc. So just make sure when you're filling it, you're just doing a very thorough job. I know it's annoying, but this is what it is, and we got to make sure that it's filled correctly. Lastly, prepare your SOP, the most important part of your college application. Now, typically for master's programs, we see two kinds of essays. One that has a word limit of 500 words and one that has a limit of 1,000 words. So with the 500 word, we recommend you prepare 4 paragraphs, and for the 1,000 word, we recommend you prepare 8 paragraphs. Now, this is interesting about how you're going to write your essay and how you're going to approach it. There are, of course, different prompts at each university and for each program. That's definitely there. But at the end of the day, when you come and sit to analyze them, and as college counselors, we've now mastered this. They essentially just ask two questions. Each essay just asks two questions. One is why you want to study the the program that you want to study, and why you want to study it at that university. So what you can essentially do is you can divide this essay into two parts and actually think about this like a braid. Think about your essay as a braid. And a braid has 3 strands. So the first strand you can think of as your own experiences, and that will answer why you want to study this program. So it can be, for example, if I'm a business student, I can say that I want to study business because I'm interested in making a socially relevant change in the entrepreneurship of da di da di da. And you're going to explain with your experiences how this is relevant for you, what sets you up for this program. This is where you talk about yourself. That's how you start the essay. Halfway through it, you change gears to the second strand, which will be why do you want to study at this university? And now you start flattering them a little bit. and seeing that because I'm interested in this, I'm interested in studying this course, I'm interested in studying under this professor, I'm interested in exploring this research center. And basically the second half of the essay becomes about the university. And lastly, to complete the braid, the third strand, your concluding paragraph. You basically bring it all in together. I want to study business because of this reason. This university is great for me because of this reason. And at the end, and this is why I want to be admitted here. And this is why this is my only top choice. And that's how you kind of bring it in together. So that's pretty much about it. When it comes to SI, so with SI, we do work very sparingly with postgrad students, but we do offer an interesting offering called College Knowledge. Now, like I spoke to you about the 5 Ws and the admissibility analysis, the quality analysis, our research team, our research and analytics team helps greatly with this. We can also bring you a long list, help you brainstorm the short list, etc., etc. And then for the second part of the process, which is applying, which is LOR, planning and procurement, essay editing, and all of that, the editorial team is very, very well versed with these. So, yes, that's pretty much about it. And thank you so much for listening so patiently.